Coming up on today's edition of Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports, Chase Senior hanging out here with you. I want to talk about one Eagles player that is developing fast in year two. And also coming up, we are going to open up the floor and take questions from our loyal subscribers and all of the real ones. Before we do that, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We are approaching 100,000 subs. If you want informative, insightful, entertaining, thought-provoking Eagles content every single day here on YouTube where you have a voice, this is the channel for you. And join the largest Eagle Nation channel on YouTube. But also, we go live every single Wednesday and for every game day. And speaking of the latter portion of that, we'll be live for Eagles, Commanders, and our watch party. It's getting underway 12 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, an hour before kickoff, 9 a.m. Pacific. We hope to see you there. Let's spend a few moments talking about Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith, the 30th overall pick out of Georgia in the 2023 NFL Draft, playing very, very well, especially over the last couple of weeks. And remember when Brandon Graham went out with that torn triceps? We talked about Nolan Smith here on the show and how he was going to get ample opportunities at more snaps, how he was going to have to step up, how Vic Fangio was going to have to utilize him a little bit more. And up to that point, Nolan Smith was having a really good borderline breakout year two. But since Brandon Graham went out, the Eagles have been able to absorb the blow of losing BG, team captain, great player against the run, and with his pass rushing skills, overall just consummate pro and team leader, with the development of Nolan Smith and, of course, some of the other young players along this Eagles defensive line. And since Brandon Graham went out, Nolan Smith has gone from 41% of the defensive snaps played weeks 1 through 12 to, in the last 3 weeks, Vic Fangio has had him on the field 81% of the time. And Nolan Smith now has 5.5 sacks this season. And against Pittsburgh, he dazzled. He played a career-high 95 snaps. That can't be right. He played a career-high in snaps against Pittsburgh. That's what I do know. He had a pressure rate of 18.2. He had 1 sack and 3 additional pressures. But it's how he made his impact felt that really stood out to me. Because when you saw number 3 on the field, you saw him with twitch, bend, speed, athleticism coming off that edge. But he also played with some power. He bull rushed Broderick Jones, who has so much weight on him, and that forced the Steelers to kick a field goal. That is an impact that goes beyond the stat sheet, as I like to say. And then he was able to shed some blocks in the run game for the Eagles to get some big stops against the rushing attack for Pittsburgh. And there was one play when Darnell Washington, who is a massive human being, who Nolan Smith just kind of karate chopped and threw out of the way in order to disrupt a play. I love the energy that Nolan Smith plays with because it really is contagious. And here's what Vic Fangio had to say about Nolan Smith this year in general. He's done a good job of improving each and every day. Maybe not each and every day, but each and every week. From the start of OTAs through training camp, he's really taken it and put it on himself to improve and learn his position, learn the techniques of his position, learn the in and outs of his position. That can help make a play or two. And as we know, he's got good speed, he's a good athlete, and he's been able to amp up his physicalness to make up for his lack of size, ideal size for that position. And that's what's been so huge for him. We knew coming out of Georgia that Nolan Smith was a little bit undersized. He was in that Haason Reddick build. He was under 240 pounds. How do you make up for it, though? Play bigger than your size, but then you win with technique, you win with twitch, you win with speed, explosiveness, and power coming off that edge. And so in that game against Pittsburgh, when he played 95% of the snaps, is what I meant to say a little bit earlier. Bad job by me. We saw pass rush. We saw him drop back in coverage. We saw run defense, and we saw a fanatical effort from him. And when you compare what he's done this year to last year, here's the side-by-side comparison. 14 games this year, 5.5 sacks, 7 TFLs, 10 quarterback hits. 17 games last year, limited snaps, 1 sack, 1 TFL, and 3 quarterback hits. I said before the year, stop panicking about Nolan Smith. He's going to be okay. The skill set is there. And it's resulted in all of these Pro Football Focus numbers right here being in the green and bordering on being very good. Overall PFF grade of 69.3, pass rush grade of 69.5, run defense grade of 65.6, 24 pressures, 15 hurries. And you can only imagine that his development should continue and his ascent should continue upward. It's a big draft pick for Howie Roseman right there. Looks as though he hit. And how about that? Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith in the first round. You build your team in the trenches. You watch the game from the sideline. What type of push are you getting? And all year, because the Eagles invest in the offensive line, they invest in the defensive line, they win at the point of attack. That can win you a lot of games. You can play bully ball against the opponent. It wins with any style. It wins in any weather. And it allows you to be a consistent winner as well. I should be a general manager. Which young player has impressed you the most this year? Share your thoughts with us down in the comment section right now. We always like to hear from you. We also love our friends at GameTime, our partner and the sponsor of today's Eagles Now. Holidays are coming up. If you want to get somebody special a great gift, download the GameTime app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply, first purchase only, and you can get somebody who you really care about tickets to an Eagles game, a different sporting event, concert, comedy show, theater event, and a whole lot more, because it's not just an app for sporting events. I love the user experience and interface. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. The more that you wait until the start of the event, the more that prices drop. And there's the Game Time guarantee. If you find ticket prices lower elsewhere, Game Time will credit you up to 110% of the difference. So, last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Eagles at Commanders this week. Cowboys at Eagles, Giants at Eagles to round out the regular season, and hopefully a couple of playoff games for Philadelphia at the link as well. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. What time is it? Game Time. We'll put that link down below in the comment section and in the description of today's Eagles Now. Start to take your questions here. Anthony Byers, does Bryce Huff deserve playing time, or could that mess up the current rotation? You know, that's a really good question. Bryce Huff had his practice window opened after he had that wrist injury back a few weeks ago. He suffered that injury in warmups going into that game against Jacksonville. And this Eagles defense and this defensive line and this pass rush has been so on point, we have forgotten about Bryce Huff, who signed a $34 million contract this offseason worth $17 million per year. Now, I think that he's going to be a part of the rotation. One, because of cost. Two, I do believe there's a better player in there. But do you want to take Nolan Smith off the field, who we talked about earlier, for Bryce Huff? No, I don't think so. Do you want to spell Josh Sweat, who has a team-high 8 sacks, just to get Huff in there? No. Now, with Brandon Graham being out, you, of course, need some more depth, and that's where Huff can help you. But I also like the reps that we've seen from a player like Jalen Hunt. But Bryce Huff, his Pro Football Focus numbers are pretty good analytically. Those are all in the green right there. And I do believe that given the coaching and the maximizing of personnel by Vic Fangio, we could see Bryce Huff start to turn the corner. And hopefully that does happen, because Howie Roseman wants it for the Eagles' pocketbooks. Sava, do you think that Saquon is going to break Eric Dickerson's record? I don't think so. And Saquon right now is under pace for trying to break that record. And we talked about this the other day on the show, so just bear with me here as we bring it up. So Eric Dickerson, in 16 games, by the way, in 1984, he ran for 2,105 yards. Right now, Saquon, 285 carries, number one in the NFL, 1,688 yards, number one in the NFL. He's averaging 5.9 yards per carry, 11 touchdowns, and 120.5 rushing yards per game. That too, number one in the NFL. So he's at 1,688. He needs to get to 2,105 with 3 games left. Eagles do have Washington, bad rush defense, Dallas, up and down, Giants, maybe the worst team in the league. So if Saquon pops off a little bit, he could get there. But let's do the simple math here. Let me just say. Let me bring out my handy calculator. Great radio, great television here. Dickerson, 2,105 minus 1,688. He needs 417 rushing yards in 3 games. So that's more than 100 rushing yards, well over 100 rushing yards per game with 3 games to go. So I don't think so, but that's fine. Have him right for the playoffs. Have him right for a Super Bowl run. That's really what matters, and I still think he's going to win NFL Offensive Player of the Year. Justin Jacobson. With the Eagles' slow starts all year, how worried are you that it could come back to bite them? I am worried about that, especially if you go up against a team like Detroit, where you know that their offense isn't going to slow down and they're capable of dropping 40 or 50 on you. If the Eagles drop into a 14-0 hole against a good team when the pressure is on and the opposition is dominating time of possession, which takes drives away from Philadelphia, will they have a chance to come back? Now, they've done such a great job of that. They've done it against elite teams too. I mean, look at what they did against Baltimore. You know, the Ravens go up 10-0. Eagles defense turned it around after that fiery speech from C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They played elite, and in non-garbage time moments, they give up 3 points the rest of the way. So they're capable of having mental fortitude to be able to come back. That is a concern, though, because let's say you go down to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That ground game's been humming over the last couple of weeks. What if the Bucs find that groove running and they just exhaust so much clock, and their defense, which has had Hurts and Sirianni's number, plays very well? Can you come back from that deficit? A team like the Rams, a team like the Packers, they can light up the scoreboard. So it was a good sign to see Philadelphia against Pittsburgh score 10 first quarter points. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come. Cool Rains, thoughts on Detroit's injuries? So even before Detroit started suffering massive injury after massive injury, they now have 13 players on injured reserve. I had said I think Philadelphia matches up well with Detroit. I think they match up even better with Detroit because that defense cannot stop anybody. Green Bay scored a lot of points on them a couple of weeks ago. And then the Buffalo Bills, I mean, they could not be stopped in that game. And you think about how multiple the Eagles are with the rushing attack. If the pass game can perform like it did against Pittsburgh, the Eagles offense, once they get moving downhill, once they win at the offensive line, difficult to stop. Anthony Byers. Who do the Eagles match up against best in the AFC that are contenders other than the Steelers? We own PA. Yeah, F Pitt. Look, I mean, obviously the Eagles swept the AFC North, so they match up well with Baltimore. They match up well with Pittsburgh. Who else do they match up well against? I mean, Buffalo is going to be a hard out because Josh Allen is just playing unbelievable football. I do worry about that Bills defense, though. They gave up 44 against the Rams 2 weeks ago, and then another big spot against Detroit, well over 30 points in that game. And so I like how Philadelphia's offense could fare. The Kansas City Chiefs are so fluky. They are statistically not a great team, but they always win close games. And so they're so battle-tested and experienced and so good at head coach and quarterback, they just find a way to win. But roster-wise, Philadelphia matches up well with the team like Kansas City. And so, yeah, this is why I said earlier this week, if the Eagles don't make it to the Super Bowl, I think it's a disappointment and it's a great opportunity blown because this team is the deepest, most well-rounded, most talented, and most multiple team in the NFL. They can play a different style in a variety of ways, and they can win a plethora of ways as well. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can be a part of our mailbags and so you can stay in the know with all things Eagles year-round.